Learn how to uncover your authentic brand voice to attract the perfect people and opportunities for you with my guest, Ashleigh Harvey, on this episode of the Speaking Your Brand podcast. More and more women are making an impact by starting businesses, running for office, and speaking up for what matters. With my background as a TV political analyst, entrepreneur, and speaker, I interview and coach purpose-driven women to shape their brands, grow their companies, and become recognized as influencers in their field. This is Speaking Your Brand, your place to learn how to persuasively communicate your message to your audience. Hi there, and welcome to the Speaking Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Carol Cox. Today is a very, very special episode. You're going to want to listen to the entire thing because I have a huge announcement to make that happens to correspond with the guest that I have on the podcast today. Before we get to the announcement, we're going to dive deep into your understanding your brand voice, why it matters, why authenticity and the messaging that you're putting out to your audience makes such a huge difference, especially in this day and age of more and more AI-driven content. We're going to talk about how you can be more authentic with your messaging, how you can make sure that your audiences, whether they're prospective clients, current clients, audiences you're speaking to, whether it's on social media, in person, or even in writing and books that you do, how they make sure that they understand who you are, what you do, and how you can help them. My guest today is Ashleigh Harvey, who is a copywriting persuasion extraordinaire. She is also a graduate of our Thought Leader Academy, and she was last on this podcast way back in July of 2021 in episode 234. Definitely take a listen to that one after you listen today. Ashleigh, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I am too. You live in England, originally from South Africa. Right now you are touring around the UK. Can you tell us a bit why you're touring around in the UK and what exactly you're doing there?
Yes, I am a performer. I work in the theatre and I am in the UK touring production of Come From Away. And we've been touring since January this year, and we will finish touring in January next year. And I'm currently in Norwich in one of the theatre dressing rooms. Yeah, and it's just been a total blast. I've just loved my time on the show. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
And you moved to London from South Africa. This was before the pandemic, correct?
Yeah, well, like 9 months before the pandemic, yeah.
And then how did you get started in doing copywriting? I know we're going to talk about why copywriting is really a misnomer for the type of work that Ashleigh does, but just for shorthand right now, how did you get into copywriting and brand messaging?
I have been writing for businesses since about 2011, and I'd done press releases and I'd done video writing for in-house videos, and I came over to the UK and I had a couple of auditions and I had some work here, and then COVID hits within about 9 months of me being here, and I had to find a way to make money. So I started actually working as a care worker. I trained up as a care worker, and I started working as a care worker in London, in and around London, in private care. And at the same time, I started my business from the back of my car in between care shifts. And I really got to the root ideas of copywriting and what it is and the foundations of it and the techniques. And I very slowly built the business over about 9 months. And then I was able to go full time with it, which was just incredible. And so now I work with clients all over the world, and I write for business owners and entrepreneurs mainly. And it's been amazing. It's just been one of the greatest gifts the pandemic could have given me, as I think it did for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned in the intro, you did go through our Thought Leader Academy. This was in the end of 2021 and then graduated in the beginning of 2022. And Ashleigh, you have actually helped me quite a bit with the copywriting on the sales page for the Thought Leader Academy on the speakingyourbrand.com website. And I know obviously you had a kind of an insider's perspective on it because you had gone through that. But I think what your genius is that you really get into the shoes and the minds and the hearts of the audience, whoever that audience happens to be, and really think about it from their perspective. What do they need to hear? What do they need to understand in order to make that decision for themselves, decision to buy or whatever it happens to be? And I cannot tell you how many women I hear from on consult calls who say to me, Carol, your sales page spoke to me. Like the words that you use are really things either that I've thought myself or things that maybe they hadn't been able to articulate. They didn't have the right words for, but as soon as they read them on the page, they realized that, oh, this is the problem I'm having, or this is what I want for myself.
It's so powerful, the words you choose to use in your business. They're so powerful, and I keep learning all the time about how to find those words and what works and what doesn't work. But there are certain strategies that a lot of good copywriters employ to get those kinds of reactions from people who read a sales page or an email sequence or whatever it may be. So I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled that you get that feedback. That makes me very happy. That's great.
And for those of you listening, as you hear myself and Ashleigh talk about this today in this episode, so this definitely applies to writing on your website, your sales page, your email newsletters, your social media copy, but it also applies to the public speaking that you do, presentations and talks. What is such a core part of our Signature Talk Canvas framework is understanding your audience. What are their goals, related to kind of your big picture topic that you're presenting on? What are their goals? What challenges are getting in the way that they see? What are those challenges that you see as that expert guide that they don't necessarily see? And how can you help them get more of what they want, right? Get past those challenges and having that empathy for them and validating where they're at is such a huge part of being an impactful speaker as well as an impactful writer for your brand message and for the work that you do with whomever your clients are in your business and in your industry. So Ashleigh, let me ask you this, thinking about clients you've worked with, a lot of the women that you've spoken to, what do you feel is their biggest challenge when they think about their brand voice or having an authentic voice or how to convey themselves to their audiences?
I think a lot of women are just frightened of sounding too much of something or too little of something. That's kind of been my experience. And so they're either afraid of not sounding professional enough or sounding too brash or too confident or not confident enough. And so it's always seated in this idea of being too much or lacking something instead of just sitting in what you are and just being that thing and owning that thing. And so I try really hard with my clients to get them to sit in their voice as their voice is right at this moment and not try and be something that it's not try and mimic someone else or copy someone else or be too professional or too, professional sounding if that's not really their vibe. So I try and work with them to just figure out where they are now and sit in that voice now, because as we grow as human beings, so do our voices, and your voice will change. It's just the nature of being alive. And so when you really sit in that and you embrace it and you enjoy it, like you find like great enjoyment from it, I see people flourish. It's unbelievable what can happen.
That really is the heart of authenticity, is sitting with who you are and being okay with that and expressing that in the way that it is you. You're not trying to mimic or be someone else, because I think a lot of us look at like the Amy Porterfields or the Marie Forleos or whoever the TikTok influencers are today, which I don't know because I don't follow them on TikTok. But we think, well, they're successful. Look at these massive audiences that they've built, these businesses that they've grown. So I need to be like them, peppy, optimistic, enthusiastic, whatever. And if that's you, yes, like obviously we want to be enthusiastic and passionate about the work that we do. But like how I convey that enthusiasm and passion has to look like Carol, and it has to match the audience that I'm attracting, right? Not the audience that necessarily that they're attracting and trying to be like them. Do you hear that also sometimes from the women that you talk to?
Yes, I mean I'm nodding my head off here. I can see my own head in the visual in front of me, like doing this. Yes, I have even fallen into that trap of sort of seeing, Amy Porterfield is someone I follow on social media, and I see her stuff and I see the response it gets. But she is a very particular kind of person with a very particular kind of audience selling a very particular kind of thing, and we're not all fans. Like Amy Porterfield has people in the world that are not her fans, like, and that's fine. And she will say that to So it's so important to, when you see what someone else is doing, absolutely learn from them and grow from them. And because I totally believe in that, I absolutely believe in infusing your brain with as much information as possible and then picking out the stuff that works for you and throwing away the rest. And so when it comes to your voice, I just feel like it's so personal, especially when you run your own business, you're an entrepreneur, people are buying what you sell because of who you are. You have to lean into that and be brave and courageous. And if you're an introvert, be an introvert and say, I'm an introvert and I really struggle with this stuff. And you will find so many people out there who go, oh my goodness, so am I. And this is the person I want to work with, because you're speaking like a human being to another human being. And I just think that is so important in anything you write, and also in the speaking work that you do in your business. That kind of thing draws people in, and it draws the right people in. That's the most important thing.
Ashley, I'm going to ask you to describe your brand voice in just a moment. But before we get there, I'm thinking about that what we were talking about earlier about how women feel like if when they try to write, either they're sounding too much, too brashy or too confident or too braggy, or they're lacking something, or they're not polished enough or professional enough, or whatever the thoughts are going in their mind. And no surprise, because as women and young girls, we're brought up and socialized to be people pleasers, to make sure that we're, quote unquote, good girls, that we're not ruffling feathers, that we're doing as we're told. And that works for a lot of us. We get good grades in school and we're rewarded for that. And then I know once we get to like mid-career, we realize, we kind of look around and think, oh, like stuff is not really working the way that it should be working. And we talk a lot about almost every industry is a male-dominated industry, and not because men inherently are bad. I mean, I've had tons of male allies in my career, professors and colleagues. It's not that, but when systems and industries are so kind of myopic and aren't looking at and addressing the needs of everyone, and I feel like as women, this is our opportunity to say, well, hold on a minute. Maybe there are, quote unquote, best practices in our industry or company that need to be changed. Or maybe there are things that need to have more perspectives, more different types of people at the table. And when we do that, we are ruffling some feathers. There are some people who are not going to like us, but then it's like, well, then what are we doing here? What is our mission? What are the things we want to change in the world? But it's hard. And that's why I think the work that we do, Ashleigh, the work that I do in Speaking Your Brand, with bringing together women as a community, helps us to support each other because it is hard to be the only one, or feeling like you're the only one doing this.
Yeah. I had a really interesting call with a woman, because I'm on LinkedIn a lot. Like, I'm super active on LinkedIn, and I love going into my DMs and actually meeting people, because I'm finding LinkedIn to be quite a strange place at the moment and not very personal. So I go into my DMs and I meet people, and I had a call with a woman because we kind of clicked, and I just said to her, what do you struggle with the most about writing in your voice? And she said to me, can I swear? It's not a bad swear word. She said to me, can I swear? I have to get your permission if that's okay.
Yes. Oh,
okay.
yes. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
She said to me, I'm worried about all the shit I'm gonna attract. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because I love attracting shit. I find it one of my most favorite things to do. Anyway, and we had this conversation, and I was just reminded, because I felt like that in my 20s. Like, I was so frightened of what people thought of me, and I was so frightened that what I said would upset people or attract people just kind of going, oh, we don't want that in our orbit, or whatever, however people respond. And I don't know if I changed her mind, but I certainly just said to her, these are people you're never going to meet. they're not people you want to work with because they're not into you talking about who you are. And so, you know, as much as you can, just try and lean into those things that you believe in and the things that you want to talk about. And I think you're the same as me. Like, I'm very vocal about my feminism. I'm very vocal about empowering other women. I'm very vocal about saying I'm a woman and I have a voice and I want that voice to be heard and I want to help you find your voice, you know. And so it's hard and it's scary, but no one's going to die.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And to your point, I was thinking that about this idea of feminism, and women are so afraid of it. And I know there's some, people want to put some put controversies on it, or there's some people don't like the word, and that's fine. You can use whatever your word that you want. Feminism to me just means men and women are equal. And that's like full stop. Like there's, and any other details can be worked out later. But every time I talk about my feminist background, I've been a feminist since I learned the word, probably in early high school. But I have, again, women who come to me and say, thank you, Carol. Like, I feel like I understand your approach in the world, like why you're doing the work that you do, because you're willing to talk about this. Otherwise, I would just be another public speaking coach. And yes, like I can help you with speaking skills, and that's and we're going to help you create your signature talk and understand your ideas and get clear on them. But there's so much more we want to help you be that person in the world that you want to be that woman in the world that you want to be. And the skills are kind of the outer part of it, but there's so much more that goes inside.
And it's also about celebrating who you are, right? Like, I think what I learned from you in the Thought Leader Academy was I have these stories that I'd never really told about myself, and I wasn't ashamed of them, but I just didn't know that anyone wanted to hear them. And so when I started incorporating that stuff into not just my speaking, but in my blogs and my emails and my LinkedIn posts and my conversations with people online, I just found people opened up to me more. And because there was something in my story that spoke to them and their story, and it almost gave them permission to be more human. And you just validate your life experiences, the things that have shaped you, the things that have challenged you, the things that have felt really difficult or hard or painful or wonderful or joyful, whatever it may be, you just validate your experience in the world. And I just think that's so important.
Yes. Yes. And we learn from each other's stories, and I feel like as the person, the woman sharing a story about myself, I learn and grow. My audience will benefit from it. For myself, I know I have developed so much as a person, much as a speaker and a business owner by doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, Ashleigh, so let's dive into brand voice more specifically. And you had a fun email just a few weeks ago about these 9 different types of brand voices that you can be. And we were looking at this before we hit record, and I was like, I think I'm all of them. No, I think I'm like half of them. But, obviously there's probably elements that we take from a bunch of different ones. But can you tell, okay, first I want to know, how would you describe your brand voice? Not necessarily one of these categories of the 9, but just in general, how would you describe your brand voice? And then let's talk about some of these different types.
So I think my brand voice is quite parental, which does fall into the 9. Not that I'm like an old fuddy-duddy. I think if I'm a parent, like I'm the cool hip parent. I'm the parent that everyone wants to hang out with, right? But I'm also like super strict. Like I can get quite cross. So I sometimes like I'll post up on LinkedIn and I'm like, listen, I can't help you if you can't help yourself, like those. You need to help yourself and then I can help you. So like I think I sort of have that kind of voice where I tell it like it is, but I also want to teach people and I want to inspire people and I want to get people excited about writing because I love copywriting so much and I love, branding and marketing and sales and all of the stuff that a lot of people are scared of. So yeah, I would say kind of a parental voice, but straight talker, straight down the line, I hope I inspire people. I hope I excite people. That's kind of the aim. That's where I'm aiming.
Well, I love your writing. I love your emails. Love your LinkedIn. Listeners, go to the show notes. Please connect with Ashleigh on LinkedIn and sign up for her email newsletter. You will enjoy it so much. And then I always call you, can I call you like a tough love parent or a tough love nurturer?
I reckon so. Yes, that's what I think. And I swear sometimes. I swear a lot, actually. Like a lot of F bombs, like a lot of F bombs in my LinkedIn posts and my newsletters. And I think some people don't like that. And that's also okay, you know? So, yeah, tough love parents with some swearing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I love that. All right, and then so there's other ones on here. There's like the Eternal Optimist. This is the Amy Porterfield, Marie Forleo, women out there. Which again, that's great. Like they have a lot of excitement. They kind of have this easy cadence about the language and the writing that they put out. Shorter sentences. You can read the copy faster. It's upbeat, which is good. They're very encouraging and all of that. And then there's brands, there's like the anti-establishment brand voice, there's the underdog, there's ones that are more like the friend, what's called the friend of the bar, the easygoing voice, which is fun. And then I was trying to figure out which one I was. And there's kind of like these umbrella categories. And there's voices of authority is one category, and the parent, like you are in one of those. And the other two in the voices of authority are translator and the voice of God. And the translator makes things simple. So he says, you teach your audience in the most basic way possible. And I like to think that I'm a good translator because I like frameworks. I like to kind of distill things down and make them hopefully like easy to understand. Obviously, doing the podcast for so many years has helped me to do that. But then I was looking at that, and then I was looking at the voice of God brand voice. I'm like, well, I kind of feel like I'm also this because it says, this voice type speaks confidently with very little wavering. Their language is definitive, longer cadence, more advanced vocabulary, a more serious tone. So I feel like I also tend to do that, even though, like, obviously I love to laugh and have fun, but I call myself like a serious thinker. Like I read a lot, like, history and nonfiction and think a lot about politics and the world. And so I'm serious in that way. So I don't know. What do you think, Ashleigh?
I think they can definitely overlap. Like there's absolutely a world in which these voices overlap. And I think that's what creates the intricacy of a voice and what differentiates one voice from another. There are loads of brands out there who have the parent brand voice or the translator brand voice or the voice of God brand voice, but it's the overlap and the personality that comes in that differentiates it. So I would definitely agree with you. I think there is an overlap for you of translator and voice of God, but I also think there is, I don't know if I would say eternal optimist, but there's certainly an optimistic sort of like where can we go? What can we do? What goal can you reach? How far can you push yourself? Kind of edge in your brand voice as well, which is what I love about your brand voice, because it creates a feeling of possibility and of growth and aspiration, and so yeah, that's what I would say about your one for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have always called myself an eternal optimist, no matter how things may seem in the world. But very different than, say, like an Amy Porterfield is that because I'm an introvert, maybe she is too, I don't know, but I am not a social media person. I have never made an Instagram reel in my life. I will probably never be on TikTok, right? Because it doesn't feel authentic to me. Like that type of content and channel is not authentic to me. But for other people, it works perfectly. Like they love it. Like they look forward to it. They enjoy it. So for those of you listening, also think about just because you see someone that is successful, that channel may suit them really well, but find the channel, like the medium that works for you. Like I like podcasting because I can have 30-minute, 45-minute conversations and we can go all, I don't have to like figure out how to be fun and perky in 60 seconds.
Totally. And, finding your avenue and the way you want to express yourself is so important. And I've thought about starting a podcast many times because they are so, I love listening to podcasts. I can binge podcasts for ages and ages. So they are a really fantastic avenue for deeper thinking, deeper conversations. Yeah. I love your podcast. It's great.
Oh, well, thank you. And it really has helped me to develop my brand voice because I have to create content all the time. I think that's what you have found, Ashleigh, with the writing that you do, that your email newsletter, is that having this consistent output that, that you're doing every week in and week out forces you to develop your brand voice. Because number one, you have to think of new topics to talk about, but then you also have to try to make them interesting, in a way, interesting to the receiver, but also frankly interesting to me. I have to figure out how to keep this podcast interesting after over 400 episodes, right?
Yes. And some days you just don't want to, right? Like some days you just do not want to do it. And I think that's also the really important thing about having it as a practice. So for you, recording this podcast has become a practice. For me, writing my newsletter every week is a practice. And the more you practice something, the better at it you get. And that voice just develops so beautifully and becomes so full that you don't even have to think about it anymore. It's just there. It's just part of everything you create. And that's why it's so powerful.
Yes. And to that point, this is what, for those of you listening, this is what we want for you. We want someone to open up their email inbox and read an email from you, or see a LinkedIn post from you, or hear a presentation from you, or a podcast interview that you've done and say, yes, that sounds exactly like I would expect her to sound like, whether it's in writing or in voice. Because as we talked about in the intro, with more and more artificial intelligence content being created, it is easy for people to put out how-to expertise content, and there's a use for that. But people want to hear from you, like what's on your mind, what matters to you, how are you seeing what's going on? And they want to hear that from you in your own brand voice, not from what I call like the generic internet voice.
Yeah. And I think AI is great and it's powerful and it's super helpful and it's helping us to create more in less time, which is fantastic. But if you rely on it too much and you don't continue to hone what it creates for you, like you don't edit it, you don't shape it, you don't modify, you don't bring your own human brain to the AI brain, you're just going to sound like everybody else. And I think what's so interesting to me is that in this world of rapid content creation, it's actually given us more of an opportunity to stand out than ever before, because as more and more people use AI, it's all gonna just be quite generic, I'm sorry to say. And the more you keep writing your own stuff and creating your own stuff, the more you'll stand out.
Yes, absolutely. So Ashleigh, can you tell us about copywriting, or what you would rather call it? Because as we were chatting before we hit record, that people hear copywriting and they think, oh yeah, but I write my own emails, or, I wrote the homepage of my website. So copywriting, yes, there's writing involved, but it's not really just about writing. So can you tell us more about that?
So copywriting, I like to call it sort of a deep, deep persuasion technique where you create something in writing that somebody reads and then they take action on that, but they think they've persuaded themselves to do it. Like that's how persuasive the writing is. So at no point do they think to themselves, this person wants me to do X, or this person wants me to buy from them, or this person wants me to sign up to their email list, or whatever it may be. They think they've totally made that decision all on their own. Actually, every single word you've written has guided them to that point. So really for me, it's about deep research. It's about data mining. It's about funnel creation. It's about strategy. It's about nurturing an audience to buy. It's a lot of different components. And the writing part is the smallest, tiniest fragment of it.
So now we're going to do our best at persuading you, not selling you, on our big announcement that I teased at the top here. So Ashleigh, as I mentioned, lives in London. I visited London for the first time this past July, and I fell in love with the city. I mean, Paris will always have my heart because I studied French history, but I really adored London much more than I thought that I would. So as soon as I got back, Had a Zoom call with Ashleigh because I knew she lives in London. I said, we have to do a retreat together next summer in London. And of course, Ashleigh was jumping up and down and saying, yes, 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 yes. So excited. So we have already actually found the venue. It is beautiful in London on the Thames. We've booked the venue. We are all set to go. So we are doing this June 29th through July 2nd. So we have 4 days, a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We encourage you to come at least by that Saturday morning to kind of get adjusted. We have some optional activities that Saturday to fun stuff, walking tours and picnics to do together. And then Sunday through Wednesday, we are going to take really good care of you, not only of the workshops and activities on your brand voice, getting that radical clarity on what you do, your unique gifts that you're bringing, who you serve, the change you want to make in the world. So really helping you to develop your brand voice. But then also understanding how to fit that in with whatever projects you're working on, whether it's your business, your personal brand, your speaking, your writing, your copywriting, what have you, is really helping you develop that. But we're going to have so much fun doing that by really immersing you in women's history, performing arts, lots of activities. So Ashleigh, tell me, what are you most excited about this experience?
I can't choose one thing. That's crazy. I I think for me, it's going to be meeting women who believe similar things to me, who want to explore similar things that I want to explore, and helping them through that journey and giving them tools that they can use going forward. I feel like every time I'm in a group of women where we're like just sharing and connecting and growing, it just feels like possibilities kind of become endless. And I want to be able to broaden my network and meet new people and share in a real experience. I feel like this is going to be a real experience in this incredible city where people won't just be learning from me, but I'll be learning from them, and we'll be learning from each other, and really getting to grips with who we are and what we want to do in this life and in this world, and who we want to help. And I think that's the most exciting thing for me.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. We wish it was next month, but obviously we need time to let you all know about it and to sign up for it as well. So it is the very end of June, very first part of July, 2025 in London. And you can get all of the details by going to speakingyourbrand.com/London, speakingyourbrand.com/London. It is limited to 12 women because we want to make sure that everyone has enough time to work with us to really, get the most out of the time together. We're going to have a photographer there for one day so you can get some really cool brand photos of yourself that you'll be able to use on your website and your social media and more. So it's really going to be such an incredible immersion for you to really decide, what do you want to do next for yourself? Like, what does that look like in your business or your speaking or your career or your writing? What does that look like? How do you want to develop yourself? And we're there to help you do it and have a great time along the way.
The best time in summer in London. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Amazing.
And I anticipate we're going to have women from the US, from Canada, probably also from Europe and the UK who are coming. So no matter where you live in the world, Australia, we've had clients all over the world. And so I imagine that they'll want to come. You can come early, do some sightseeing, stay past the retreat, do some more sightseeing and traveling. It's a great opportunity to come, have something fun for yourself, get something for your business as well, and meet an incredible group of women along the way. All right. So again, go to speakingyourbrand.com/London to get all the details and to apply, because we want to have a Zoom call with you. We want to hear more about what you're most looking forward to doing, answer all the questions that you have. We're going to have hotel recommendations, the itinerary with all the dates, when you should arrive, and all of those details are on the website. So if you have any questions after you go to the website, please reach out and we'll be happy to chat with you. Well, Ashleigh, thank you so much for coming back on the Speaking Your Brand podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and I can't wait to see you in person in London.
I can't wait. Thank you so much for having me. This has just been just fantastic. Thank you.
Until next time, thanks for listening.